Hello, and welcome to another video from the YouTube channel, From Religion to Agnostic. Today we will be looking at the biblical figure, Dodanim, the grandson of Japeth, the son of Javan. Dodanim or Dodanim was, in the book of Genesis, a son of Javan, thus, a great-grandson of Noah. Dodanim's brothers, according to Genesis Hours Minutes 10:4, were Elisha, Tarshish and Chittim. He is usually associated with the people of the island of Rhodes as their progenitor. Im is a plural suffix in Hebrew, and the name may refer to the inhabitants of Rhodes. Traditional Hebrew manuscripts are split between the spellings Dodanim and Rodanim, one of which is probably a copyist's error, as the Hebrew letters for R and D, Resh and Dalet respectively, are quite similar graphically. The Samaritan Pentateuch, as well as 1 Chronicles Hours Minutes 1:7, have Rodanim, while the Septuagint has Rodioi. The Dodanim were considered either kin to the Greeks or simply Greeks. The Targum Pseudo-Jonathan calls his country Dordania, while the Targum Neophyte names it Dodonia. Connections have been suggested with Dodona in Epirus, and Dardania in Illyria, as in Genesis Rabbah, as well as with the island of Rhodes. Samuel Bochart associated the form Rodanim with the river Rhone's Latin name, Rhodanus. Franz Delitzsch identified the figure of Dodanim with the Dardanus of Greek mythology, while Joseph Mead equated him with the Jupiter Dodonius who had an oracle at Dodona. Kenneth Kitchen discusses 2 additional possible etymologies. One possibility he suggests is that both Dodanim and Rodanim have been reduced from Dodanim by loss of medial R in Genesis Hours Minutes 10:4, Dodanim and or Dodanim, and of an initial D in 1 Chronicles Hours Minutes 1:7, Dodanim and or Rodanim. The Dardaniu occur in an Egyptian list of Aegean names under Amenhotep III, and among the Hittite allies against Ramesses II at the Battle of Kadesh in 1275, some would link these with the classical Dardanoi. He also suggests that the name Dodanium may be an altered form of Danunim, an ancient Near Eastern people mentioned in the Amarna letters whose origin and identity is still surrounded by considerable doubt. In Pseudo-Philo, c. 70, Dodanim's sons are Itheb, Beeth, and Fenech. The last of these is made prince of the Japhethites at the time of the Tower of Babel. Okay, so I want to point out a few things here. Number 1, let's reflect, and I quote, connections have been suggested with Dodona in Epirus and Dardania in Illyria, as in Genesis Rabbah, as well as with the island of Rhodes. Samuel Bochart associated the form Rodanim with the river Rhone's Latin name, Rhodanus. Franz Delitzsch identified the figure of Dodanim with the Dardanus of Greek mythology, while Joseph Mead equated him with the Jupiter Dodonius who had an oracle at Dodona. So I want to look at Dodona. Dodona in Epirus in northwestern Greece was the oldest Hellenic oracle, possibly dating to the 2nd millennium BCE according to Herodotus. The earliest accounts in Homer describe Dodona as an oracle of Zeus. Situated in a remote region away from the main Greek polis, it was considered second only to the oracle of Delphi in prestige. Aristotle considered the region around Dodona to have been part of Hellas and the region where the Hellenes originated. The oracle was first under the control of the Thesprotians before it passed into the hands of the Molossians. It remained an important religious sanctuary until the rise of Christianity during the late Roman era. During classical antiquity, according to various accounts, priestesses and priests in the sacred grove interpreted the rustling of the oak, or beech, leaves to determine the correct actions to be taken. According to a new interpretation, the oracular sound originated from bronze objects hanging from oak branches and sounded with the wind blowing, similar to a wind chime. According to Nicholas Hammond, Dodona was an oracle devoted to a mother goddess, identified at other sites with Rhea or Gaia, but here called Dion, who was joined and partly supplanted in historical times by the Greek deity Zeus. In the early history, although the earliest inscriptions at the site date to c. 550 to 500 BCE, archaeological excavations conducted for more than a century have recovered artifacts as early as the Mycenaean era, many now at the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, and some in the Archaeological Museum at nearby Ioannina. There was an ancient tradition that Dodona was founded as a colony from the city, also named Dodona, in Thessaly. Cult activity at Dodona was already established in some form during the Late Bronze Age, or Mycenaean period. During the post-Mycenaean period, or Greek Dark Ages, evidence of activity at Dodona is scant, but there is a resumption of contact between Dodona and southern Greece during the Archaic period, 8th century BCE, with the presence of bronze votive offerings, i.e. tripods, from southern Greek cities. Archaeologists also have found Illyrian dedications and objects that were received by the oracle during the 7th century BCE. Until 650 BCE, Dodona was a religious and oracular center mainly for northern tribes. Only after 650 BCE did it become important for the southern tribes. Zeus was worshipped at Dodona as Zeus Naos, or Naos, god of the spring below the oak in the temenos or sanctuary, compare to naiads, and as Zeus Bouleus, counselor. According to Plutarch, the worship of Jupiter, Zeus, at Dodona was set up by Deucalion and Pyrrha. The earliest mention of Dodona is in Homer, and only Zeus is mentioned in this account. In the Iliad, circa 750 BCE, Achilles prays to high Zeus, lord of Dodona, Pelasgian, living afar off, brooding over wintry Dodona, thus demonstrating that Zeus also could be invoked from a distance. No buildings are mentioned, and the priests, called Seloi, slept on the ground with unwashed feet. No priestesses are mentioned in Homer. The oracle also features in another passage involving Odysseus, giving a story of his visit to Dodona. Odysseus' words bespeak a familiarity with Dodona, a realization of its importance, and an understanding that it was normal to consult Zeus there on a problem of personal conduct. The details of this story are as follows. Odysseus says to the swineherd Eumaeus, possibly giving him a fictive account, that he, Odysseus, was seen among the Thesprotians, having gone to inquire of the oracle at Dodona whether he should return to Ithaca openly or in secret, as the disguised Odysseus is doing. Odysseus later repeats the same tale to Penelope, who may not yet have seen through his disguise. According to some scholars, Dodona was originally an oracle of the mother goddess attended by priestesses. She was identified at other sites as Rhea or Gaia. The oracle also was shared by Dion, whose name simply means deity. By classical times, Dion was relegated to a minor role elsewhere in classical Greece, being made into an aspect of Zeus's more usual consort, Hera, but never at Dodona. Many dedicatory inscriptions recovered from the site mention both Dion and Zeus Naos. According to some archaeologists, not until the 4th century BCE was a small stone temple to Dion added to the site. By the time Euripides mentioned Dodona, fragmentary play Melanippe, and Herodotus wrote about the oracle, the priestesses appeared at the site. As always, links are in the description box to all source material. Okay, so going back to Dodanim. Number 2 that sticks out to me is, and I quote, Kenneth Kitchen discusses 2 additional possible etymologies. One possibility he suggests is that both Dodanim and Rodanim have been reduced from Dodanim. By loss of medial R in Genesis hours minutes 10:4, Dodanim and or Dodanim, and of an initial D in 1 Chronicles hours minutes 1:7, Dodanim and or Rodanim. The Dardanayu occur in an Egyptian list of Aegean names under Amenhotep III, and among the Hittite allies against Ramesses II at the Battle of Kadesh in 1275. So there are a few things that, for me, pull up a red flag. Let's look, first at Amenhotep III. Amenhotep III, ancient Egyptian, Imeuantp, Amun is satisfied, Hellenized as Amenhotep III, also known as Amenhotep the Magnificent, was the 9th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. According to different authors, he ruled Egypt from June 1386 to 1349 BC, or from June 1388 BC to December 1351 BC to 1350 BC, after his father Thutmose IV died. Amenhotep III was Thutmose's son by a minor wife, Mutemwia. His reign was a period of unprecedented prosperity and splendor, when Egypt reached the peak of its artistic and international power. When he died in the 38th or 39th year of his reign, his son initially ruled as Amenhotep IV, but then changed his own royal name to Akhenaten. Second, let's look at Ramesses II. Ramesses II, variously also spelled Ramses or Ramses. Ra is the one who bore him, or born of Ra, circa 1303 BC, July or August 1213, reigned 1279 to 1213 BC, also known as Ramesses the Great, was the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of Egypt. He is often regarded as the greatest, most celebrated, and most powerful pharaoh of the New Kingdom, itself the most powerful period of ancient Egypt. His successors and later Egyptians called him the Great Ancestor. He is known as Ozymandias in Greek sources from the first part of Ramesses's regnal name, Usamata Setapenre, the Mat of Ra is powerful, chosen of Ra. Ramesses II led several military expeditions into the Levant, reasserting Egyptian control over Canaan. He also led expeditions to the south, into Nubia, commemorated in inscriptions at Beit el-Wali and Jerf Hussein. The early part of his reign was focused on building cities, temples, and monuments. He established the city of Pi-Ramesses in the Nile Delta as his new capital and used it as the main base for his campaigns in Syria. At 14, he was appointed Prince Regent by his father, Seti I. He is believed to have taken the throne in his late teens and is known to have ruled Egypt from 1279 to 1213 BC. Manetho attributes Ramesses to a reign of 66 years and 2 months. Most Egyptologists today believe he assumed the throne on the 31st of May 1279 BC, based on his known accession date of 3 season of the harvest, day 27. Estimates of his age at death vary. 90 or 91 is considered most likely. Ramesses II celebrated an unprecedented 13 or 14 said festivals, the first held after 30 years of a pharaoh's reign, and then, every 3 years, during his reign more than any other pharaoh. On his death, he was buried in a tomb in the Valley of the Kings. His body was later moved to a royal cache where it was discovered in 1881, and is now on display in the Egyptian Museum. Okay, and lastly, the third thing that sticks out to me here is the Battle of Kadesh in 1275. I was going to add info on the Hittites, but we covered them in earlier videos, and no worries, I have a feeling we will be talking more about them in the videos to come. So let's look at the Battle of Kadesh in 1275. The Battle of Kadesh or Battle of Kadesh took place between the forces of the New Kingdom of Egypt under Ramesses II and the Hittite Empire under Muwatalli II at the city of Kadesh on the Orontes River, just upstream of Lake Homs near the modern Lebanon-Syria border. The battle is generally dated to 1274 BC from the Egyptian chronology, and is the earliest pitched battle in recorded history for which details of tactics and formations are known. It is believed to have been the largest chariot battle ever fought, involving between 5,000 and 6,000 chariots in total. As a result of discovery of multiple Kadesh inscriptions and the Egyptian-Hittite peace treaty, it is the best documented battle in all of ancient history. After expelling the Hyksos 15th dynasty around 1550 BC, the native Egyptian New Kingdom rulers became more aggressive in reclaiming control of their state's borders. Thutmose III and his son and co-regent Amenhotep II fought battles from Megiddo north to the Orontes River, including conflict with Kadesh. Many of the Egyptian campaign accounts between circa 1400 and 1300 BC reflect the general destabilization of the Jahi region, southern Canaan. The reigns of Thutmose IV and Amenhotep III were undistinguished, except that Egypt continued to lose territory to the Mitanni in northern Syria. During the late 18th dynasty, the Amarna letters tell the story of the decline of Egyptian influence in the region. The Egyptians showed flagging interest here until almost the end of the dynasty. Horem died in 1292 BC, the last ruler of this dynasty, campaigned in this region, finally beginning to turn Egyptian interest back to this region. This process continued in the 19th dynasty. Like his father Ramesses II was a military commander who set out to restore Egypt's empire to the days of the Thutmosid kings almost a century before. Inscriptions on the Karnak walls record the details of his campaigns into Canaan and ancient Syria. He took 20,000 men and reoccupied abandoned Egyptian posts and garrisoned cities. He made an informal peace with the Hittites, took control of coastal areas along the Mediterranean Sea and continued to campaign in Canaan. A second campaign led to his capture of Kadesh, where a stela commemorated his victory, and Amurru kingdom. His son and heir Ramesses II campaigned with him. There are historical records that record a large weapons order by Ramesses II in the year before the expedition he led to Kadesh in his fifth regnal year. However, at some point both regions may have lapsed back under Hittite control. What exactly happened to Amurru is disputed. Hittitologist Trevor R. Bryce suggests that, although it may have fallen once again under Hittite control, it is more likely Amurru remained a Hittite vassal state. The immediate antecedents to the Battle of Kadesh were the early campaigns of Ramesses II into Canaan. In the fourth year of his reign, he marched north into Syria, either to recapture Amurru or, as a probing effort, to confirm his vassals' loyalty and explore the terrain of possible battles. In the spring of the fifth year of his reign, in May 1274 BC, Ramesses II launched a campaign from his capital Pi-Ramesses, modern Qantir. The army moved beyond the fortress of Tjel and along the coast leading to Gaza. The recovery of Amurru was Mu'attali's stated motivation for marching south to confront the Egyptians. Okay, and that will do it for the line of Japeth, his children, and his grandchildren, so I will see you in the next video where we will look at the line of Ham and his descendants. Have a great day, and be safe. If you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing, as well as hitting the like and sharing would help out a lot. Thank you all, and may the gods be with you.